We're diving headfirst into a pool of hard metal. That either means we're hoping blunt head trauma will wipe a few bad games from our memories, or we're playing DuckTales 2 on this episode of Doki Doki Game Club. Game Club. Hello and welcome to Doki Doki Game Club, a retro video game podcast. I am your host, Brandon Fincher, and I am joined today by three of my favorite nephews. Frank Martin.
Hello.
Brian Grogan.
Hello.
And Mr. Joseph Lester.
Blather and blatherskite.
On Doki Doki Game Club, we each take a turn choosing a particular title from video game history, and we announce the selection online so everyone can play along at home. From there, we have 2 weeks to spend with the title, at which point we reconvene to dig into the ins and outs of the selection. Today's pick was made by Joseph, and the title is DuckTales 2 for the Nintendo Entertainment System. DuckTales 2 was originally released on the Nintendo Entertainment System in Japan, North America, and Europe in 1993, putting it near the end of the console's lifespan. A Game Boy port would follow later that year. Hello, my little ducky boys.
Quack, quack.
Hey.
Quack, quack, quack. All right, DuckTales 2. I want to know, who of you has played this game before we decided to play it on the show?
I did play it. Yeah. I played it when it came out, not until recently actually, when the Capcom released the Disney Afternoon Collection.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
On
what else is in that
and,
one?
Pretty much all their Disney games. There's Tailspin, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers 1 and 2, DuckTales 1 and 2, and I'm kind of forgetting. I'm thinking of
Duck?
one. Darkwing Duck. Yeah.
Yeah,
Darkwing
yeah, yeah.
Duck.
Man, that's a mighty fine collection. I mean, that Tailspin game's kind of garbage, but the rest of that stuff is...
Tailspin is really bad, but yeah, the other games are good.
Yeah, Rescue Rangers. Great game.
Oh, yeah. Especially one. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of familiarity with part 2, but I digress. Has anyone not played DuckTales 2 before we started this?
I had never played it.
Same here, believe it or not. And man, I was a big DuckTales fan as a young lad, and loved part 1 for the NES. Love the cartoon. Really love the movie. Do you guys remember the movie? Like the original movie? Yeah.
No.
Boy, no, that was A+, man. Like a nice high budget. I remember it like looking way different from the TV show. Like they, you could see the money on the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good production, and like the animation's awesome in it.
Well,
yeah, totally.
The question I have is who knew somebody that had DuckTales 2 as a kid? Because I didn't know anybody that had it.
I didn't know anyone that knew that DuckTales 2 existed as a kid.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. As a kid,
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Okay, so Joseph, then at what point did you discover DuckTales 2?
It wasn't...
even its existence. Was that something that, like, I mean, you didn't have it, but...
No, definitely later in life, it was one of those things where I would see mention of it and I'd be like, did that actually came out? Because it's just weird because DuckTales was such a highly regarded game, and it still is. And everyone I knew back in the day played it and, has fond memories of it. So it was weird to me that a sequel to such a high profile game could go so under the radar.
Yeah.
It's true. It must have been that year, Like, I mean, because when did we get SNES? Is that 92?
91.
91.
Yeah. So, I mean...
so that's probably why.
Yeah. God, man, a 16-bit DuckTales game would have been...
Well, it's just because I think it's the same thing with Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers too, because that was a game that everyone really enjoyed. The first one and the second one, by all rights, it's a great game also, and it benefits from Capcom knowing even more the ins and outs of the NES. Yet it came even after DuckTales 2.
Right.
Wow. I think the gist of it is that Capcom had a production license with Disney, and they had X number of games that they had to make, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And that didn't extend to the Super NES. It was just NES only. Yeah. And
well, that satisfies that mystery, huh?
Yeah,
that's,
and I think they just had to belt out these games, and I think that's why DuckTales 2 and Rescue Rangers use all the same assets. I think it's just like...
Right, it seemed like the same engine and everything.
Yeah, I think they just bolted out new levels. Yeah.
So I'm going to put you guys on the spot and test your ability to recall trivial information at the drop of a dime. And can anyone recall even just a couple of titles that were Disney games for the Super Nintendo?
Yeah.
Aladdin.
Was it called... Oh, yeah,
okay.
Aladdin. What
Aladdin,
about...
sure.
Was it called Mickey Mania? What was that?
Oh, yeah. The one that you can have like different costumes.
Yeah.
House of Illusions, right? Or Castle of Illusions?
No,
Castle of Illusions?
That's
the one
Genesis.
that came out on Genesis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, actually, Mickey Mania came out on Genesis too, but there was a Super NES specific...
Magical Adventure or something.
Something like that. Anyway, I can recall the... Okay, actually... I think Mickey Mania came out on multiple platforms.
Yeah.
But I definitely know of that game, and there was that the Goof
Troop.
Goof Troop. Oh
Which,
gosh,
Brian, you're a big fan of, yeah.
Right.
But the only one that I remember playing and enjoying was Aladdin, I guess.
Yeah, well, Aladdin was a massive success.
Yeah.
And a great fun game. And yeah, we should totally do like a Disney afternoon episode or something one day where we kind of hit some of the Disney movies or even the cartoon series aside from DuckTales. But
sure.
DuckTales 2, I'm digging back deep, and man, I don't even know if I was aware that it existed.
No.
Man, DuckTales 1, I was a big fan, but I was born in 1980, so by the time this came out in 93, I was 13, maybe a little too old to be interested in a system that I had already kind of given up on, and I was so focused on Super Nintendo at that point. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say, but yeah, I don't even know that I was aware of DuckTales 2 until well into my adult life. So.
Oh yeah, I think I heard about it maybe only like a few years ago. To be honest with you,
yeah.
Well, I'll tell you how I kind of like knew about it for the first time. If you go to pricecharting.com and go to the Nintendo section and sort by most pricey games, we'll get this a little bit later. It's near the top.
Oh my word. Yeah. Spoiler alert, I just skipped ahead and Brian is absolutely right. Yeah. Jiminy Christmas.
Well, that's I think by the time that I heard about it, it was already kind of a sought after, part of the Nintendo library. So there was just no chance of getting it for less than we'll find out later.
So unless anyone has anything else to add about the history, I'd say it's time for the Back of the Box.
Bless me, bagpipes, he's at it again! Scrooge McDuck is hot on the trail of the richest adventure ever. Pieces of the map to the lost treasure of McDuck have been scattered across the globe, and Scrooge must find them before the greedy flint-hot Glomgold grabs them. It's going to be a race to the finish as both of them try to find the treasure and become the richest duck in the world. Join Scrooge and his nephews as they explore the ancient pyramids of Egypt and do battle with swashbuckling pirates in the Bermuda Triangle. Help them search the haunted halls of an ancient Scottish castle and scale the watery heights of Niagara Falls. Aid Scrooge in his quest for the secret of the island of Moo, and you'll gain the final clue to unravel the hidden location of the lost treasure of McDuck.
All right, so that was the beautiful retelling of the Back of the Box for DuckTales 2. Joseph, I have to assume that your very British wife aided and assisted you in your dialect coach. Am I correct in that?
No, she probably just sat in the other room and cringed to herself as she overheard me.
All right, well, so we're talking about DuckTales 2, and anybody listening to this show, I have to assume you've played some video games before, and a DuckTales game in particular, but... assuming you haven't, Joseph, give us a rundown. What's the general summary of what DuckTales 2 is?
All right, here's a quick crack at it. You take the colorful, treasure-hunting world of Disney's DuckTales cartoon and condense its magical essence into a side-scrolling platformer that has Uncle Scrooge hopping and bopping on his cane and picking up riches around the world. This sequel is more of the same with some added mechanics that make the action even more enjoyable, I would say.
I would say as well. But there are some things that worked and didn't work, and I can't wait to dig into that. So let's kick off talking about the visual style of the game. So, we're talking about a sequel, and I think the best way to probably approach it is if the person listening to this has not played DuckTales 1 and kind of a comparison between the two. So DuckTales in particular, both games tend to share a rather colorful, much similar to the cartoon. If you've seen the cartoon, you sort of you have a good idea as to what the DuckTales universe looks like. And Capcom, in my opinion, was quite faithful in their 8-bit adaptation of making that a video game. Would you guys agree?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
totally.
Yeah, everyone can be understood who they are. Every character, they all stand out. I mean, it works.
I think the sprite work is really great in these games.
Oh yeah. It's fun. It's a pleasure to look at. It's a pleasure mechanically, which we'll get into in just a second.
Yeah, there's no mistaking what's foreground and background.
No, not even once. No.
And the color palette is great, if not a little incorrect and off-brand. But,
is that the DuckTales nerd speaking?
There's a little bit of DuckTales nerd, yeah, sure. Everybody hates Webigale, so I won't go. We won't talk about Webigale much. But anytime I see her, whether it's part 1 or part 2, I'm pretty sure she's like colored red. I don't know.
And not pink.
Yeah.
I don't know if the NES had a good pink palette, to be honest with you.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is...
What about Kirby?
I guess, yeah.
It's Kirby, right? Yeah, I mean, that's quite pink. And that's it's the exact same shade, but I don't know. Maybe there's... Anyone know anything about the technical limitations of what... I mean, because it's a very colorful game, and there are a lot of colors in it.
But it has to do with...
sucks, so maybe they were just like, just make her red. We don't want to have to... Let's use that slot for that color slot.
Yeah, she was probably in a scene that had the too many colors already, and they're like, "Is it really worth tweaking this whole level just to get stupid Webby in here?" Right?
Yeah, I think that's basically it, because I think there's, as far as I remember in the game, there's not any pinks. Period. Like I'm trying to think of it.
Not. Same thing with the first one, which I don't know. I'd like to talk to somebody that maybe has a better understanding on the technicality.
If you worked on this game, please phone in to Doki Doki Game Club.
Yeah, we can put you in our next episode, our phone-in section.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, colorful visual style aside, I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't want to kind of scan over the simplicity of how well Capcom excelled at this. I mean, because you think of Mega Man, and we've talked about Mega Man on the show before, despite not really doing a Mega Man episode. And I think it's the same thing. Capcom has an amazing knack. I don't know. I can't. Does anyone have any insight into the developers? If there's any sort of Mega Man crossover in terms of,
I wouldn't be surprised. I think the Capcom team for the NES were the same team for every game. I don't think they had like a huge.
That's probably
team.
Not a stretch. Yeah. So. Yeah, you have to assume that there's at least some influence between teams, and the
only thing that I could think of that would be different about this game with the other ones would be we're talking about how they were late in the cycle, but this one might have had some less people on it because maybe those people kept working on the SNES games maybe instead. But I can't confirm that.
Right. We just talked about color palette just a second ago, and that's a thing within the cartoon as well. Being a bit of a DuckTales fan, the story of Uncle Scrooge originally was like a comic book. Are you guys have any familiarity? Anyone read any of that? I thought Joseph might have at one point.
Oh yeah. I've read some of the classic, Uncle Scrooge comics, and they've also resurrected them in recent years with. Not branded DuckTales, but branded Uncle Scrooge like it was back in the day, and it's got that same kind of aesthetic to it, where it's a little more old timey.
Yeah. No, I like the way it looks, and it's something I've always wanted to read a little more of. With Uncle Scrooge, I think his coat is a different color in the cartoon than it is in the
it's red in the old comics.
Yeah, and it's red in the game, right?
Yeah.
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 Yep. Yeah. It's like a reddish orange.
That's kind of neat, right? Like it's strange to think of this, that they may have done that intentionally to kind of tie it back into the comic book, but
it's probably just left over from the Webby Red,
Yeah,
right.
It might be just be because they had to do it. But
I like to think that they like originally focused on, okay, we're going to make Webigale red. It's very important, and everything else needs to be based around that.
It's like it's like the TMNT game having the turtles in different colors as opposed to having them all the same color green.
Well, yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, boy, that's weird. That's a topic for another episode.
Yeah.
But, so I think that we would all agree, in addition to the aesthetics of this game, the thing that really stands out about it is Uncle Scrooge's cane pogo, right? I mean, like it's kind of like Capcom always did a great job of, when it came to making their NES games, their big franchise titles always had something that made that game distinct. You know, I think of Capcom, I think of Bionic Commando, I think of Mega Man, with the Mega Buster. I think of Little Nemo, exactly.
Pretty much every game had its own core mechanic that would like stand out as opposed to just being a generic platformer.
Yeah, stand out, and were all fun to do.
Yeah.
I mean, like they all seemed distinctly unique. It wasn't just platforming, and it was fun to play. I don't know, Joseph. Is there anything you care to elaborate on as far as how that cane mechanic works?
Well,
maybe explain it to someone that maybe has never played the game before.
Yeah, so Uncle Scrooge, being the rich, hobbling uncle that he is, so he carries his cane everywhere with him, and he mostly uses it. I mean, he has other uses, but mostly it's like a jumping mechanic where you can kill enemies with it by, when you're in the air, you basically land on your cane and then bounce across the stage on it as long as it's out. And this gets you over spikes and other obstacles. It lets you jump higher, and you can also use it to swing at blocks and destroy them or knock them across the screen. So it has a few, and in this one you can actually use it to pull items too.
Yeah, I was going to mention, you talked about mechanics that are slightly different, and this game does a pretty good job of adding to that, the core mechanic without going too far with it. I mean, I guess they could have really gotten crazy with it and tried to turn it into a go-go gadget gun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, they also
give it a bunch of options.
They also make it a little easier to use, because I believe in the first one you have to hold down to use your cane while you're down. It's like down and B, I think. And in this one, you don't need to.
Really? I was doing it out of instinct.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I wonder.
I'm pretty sure
I
you
just
don't
automatically
need to,
did it.
Yeah, no, so I did most of the time, but I'm pretty sure that I actually read afterwards that I didn't need to be doing that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's worth exploring again and playing again,
Yeah.
so, to confirm. So don't quote me, even though I'm quoting myself right now. But,
well, in addition to the cane mechanics having a slight change in how they operate, this game's sort of stage structure is a little different. People that have played the first one will recall that Uncle Scrooge, the game essentially has a menu, a stage selection menu based around Scrooge and the boys, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it's just Scrooge.
No, I think the boys are there.
It's all
The boys are there in front of a big computer.
Yeah, sitting in front of a massive,
Bionic
mainframe
Commando
terminal thing. Yeah, and then you get to select the stage that you want to start with, and also very similar to Mega Man in that you've got an NES game giving you the option of levels and the order in which you want to tackle them. Unlike Mega Man, though, you can do them in any order and not suffer any sort of ramification, because fighting and defeating a boss doesn't give you anything to help as you go forward. It's essentially just, both games are all really about collecting treasure. I mean, that's the core, that's the heart of the character anyhow.
Well, the only difference is that you find what's his name? What's that guy that's scattered throughout the levels? The
Launchpad.
No.
Not Launchpad, but was it Gizmo? Or no?
Yeah.
Sorry, not Gizmo.
No.
It is Gizmo, right?
Gyro.
Sorry.
Yeah. Gyro. Yeah.
So many names. Gyro. You can find him in three of the levels, and he has a power up for your cane, and it's not really that big of a difference, but it will affect how you can get through certain areas.
Yeah, it unlocks secret areas in different levels.
Yeah, because one of them allows you to land to pogo break, different stronger blocks. Another lets you just hit them maybe. And
do the
hit stronger blocks,
swing.
And one is pull
stronger, pull bigger blocks. Yeah,
Yeah.
Which you don't use that last one too often.
I think there's one or two
sounds
places.
like I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say there's one or two places that you can actually use that pull for like extra.
Yeah, definitely. And it sounds like a slight thing we're talking about. I mean, it's, especially if you know what we're talking about with the game, but like, man, like that, it's really neat, especially if you've played the game. Like, this is an instance where I played DuckTales 1 so much as a kid, and I have the game memorized, and I can more or less run it with my eyes closed at this point. And to play a continuation of that with the same engine and the same assets and, more or less the same quality of gameplay. But then to see these little things, it makes maybe a greater impact than it would to somebody that was just a little more of a casual fan about it. Yeah, I don't know. I really like that aspect of playing it.
To me personally, I just wish they had played it more, because it seems like there's only like a couple areas that you need access to. I wish I would have played more like a Mega Man style, where maybe some whole levels could only be done by using a certain power up.
That would be cool. Yeah,
I feel like it was
but I know what you mean, but at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily want this to be like a Bionic Commando situation. Much love to Bionic Commando, but where you would enter a level and it's like, oh, I need to exit the level because I don't have cane pull.
That's just no fun. But I mean, I guess like
I just feel it was underutilized. That's all.
No, I would agree with that. But now my mind has wandered off to Bionic Commando, and I'm thinking about it, in Bionic Commando, that is kind of like a buzzkill. I mean, it doesn't happen a lot. It doesn't happen a lot, but it is there, and I think you still could have like found a happy medium to where you needed something to progress forward. I mean, I guess you would. The only way that I can think of, at least, in order to make certain stages dependent on other stages, would be to insist that the stages be tackled in a particular order, which takes away the fun of
openness.
So I don't know. I think maybe it's probably
no. I do see what you're talking about. It could have been used more, but yeah, like being it overused would have been
because you can go through the whole game without getting any of the power ups and still get the normal ending. Like, it doesn't change.
Which is actually kind of cool that you can go through the whole game like that. But in addition to just pulling items, like, so we were talking about the one that lets you pull larger objects, and the funny thing is right after that, of course, they have a large object you have to pull, and there aren't many more in the game that you need to pull.
Right, but it's not hidden or anything.
Yeah, it's not like you don't have to go looking for it. But one thing that I thought was kind of funny, and it's kind of superfluous, like you don't need it that much in the game, but it would have been fun, is right after that there's this flower that you can pull that springs you across a long gap. And I think if they had more of that would have been fun.
Yeah, I think that's the only one, right?
Yeah.
It's a shame. That's what I mean. Like, there's a lot of stuff that could have been like, oh man, I need more of that, and less just like an open world with more hooking, because there's a lot of hooking.
It's almost like that one is that's almost like another new mechanic they kind of come up with at the very end, and they're like, save it for DuckTales 3.
Right. Well, I think, talking of the other mechanics that differentiated from DuckTales 1, I was very happy to see that you could do something with your money.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
shop
I forgot
mechanic
about that,
for sure. No, it's cool. Brian, can you give the listeners a little rundown?
Once you complete a level, or actually go out from it via Launchpad McQuack, you get to actually spend your money on extra lives, a power up that gives you an extra health bar. I think you get to do, or health.
Yeah, you can do two of those.
Yeah, two of those, but not right off the bat. I think you have to complete a certain amount of levels for the second one.
Yep.
Not exactly sure, but there's a crystal ball that lets you continue if you like lose all your lives, which I think that's actually, at first I was kind of intimidated. I was like, wow, this is kind of hardcore versus I don't know, DuckTales 1.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. Did you actually like completely, was there continue in DuckTales 1? I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
Yeah,
I can't
it's
either.
hard to say. I remember it being fairly casual, so I don't think so, but there's some other, like, there's weird, like, so if you lose a life in this game, you lose all your money on that stage. So there's a safe you could buy, and that would it wasn't really explained very well. It says you save all your money.
Oh, that's what it was. I never bothered buying it.
Yeah.
I think it expires after one use, right? Like, if you die, this
is the Dark Souls reference. It's the Ring of Sacrifice of this game.
There you go. There you go.
It all ties back into Dark Souls.
Thanks for that. Yeah. Yeah, but like the way it's explained, it says it lets you save all your money. I was like, wait, do I not get to save any money if I complete a stage? But
it does. It's very unclear the way they explain it. But yeah,
right.
I mean, you basically nailed the description before that of what it really does.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I gotta wonder if that's a lost in translation thing. Like if the Japanese version was more,
Yeah, could be. And then the final item you could buy was a piece of the map, which we'll talk about.
Yeah. Well, no, I think that's actually a good segue if you want to talk about the map, because I would like to move on into level design and one of the with the map pieces, if I'm not mistaken, that's tied into the end of the game, so maybe we will save that. But with the stage design, so I think you cover most of it in that dramatic retelling of the back of the box, Joseph. But maybe we can get one more rundown of the different stages available.
Sure. So you can choose from, just straight from the outset, you can choose from Niagara Falls, a pirate ship that's stuck in the Bermuda Triangle, the island of Mu, Egypt, so it's like a pyramid level, and a Scottish castle. Each one has their own boss, their own like cool themed boss.
I got a question though. Is it Niagara Falls, Canada, or Niagara Falls, US?
A good question, right?
Who knows?
Why is there no barrel riding in that stage, huh?
That's such a missed opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So anybody have any stages really jump out to you? I mean, because you can pick them in any order. I'm not going to ask you to recall the order in which you picked them, but
to be 100% fair, I didn't enjoy any of the levels except the Egypt one. I found they were all pretty generic and kind of just.
I enjoyed all the levels.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't know that I would say I didn't enjoy any of them. I would say. The stages collectively did not have the same amount of character and charm that the level design in DuckTales 1 had.
I felt like
that,
that is my feeling with this game altogether, and I'm going to talk about it at the end, but I felt like the whole game didn't have as much into it as the first one did, and I don't know if it was just because the team was maybe smaller or they just rushed it out, or I don't know, but it just feels less.
It's tough to say, and it's conflicting to say that, and then for us to be able to identify, well, somebody thought enough about making a sequel to include new game mechanics.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, they could have very well just phoned that part in. And I mean, depending on your perspective, maybe they did because they really didn't utilize it. It might have been a concept on paper that didn't get fleshed out in the
properly,
in the office, but. Yeah, I don't know. As far as level design goes, I like the stages. In particular, I think my favorite might have been Scotland.
Yeah, that's a great stage.
Yeah, Scotland kind of reminded me of Transylvania.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah.
And that was, despite being a kind of an annoying stage, a DuckTales 1 stage, like I still like it a lot. It's maybe not as fun to play through and navigate in DuckTales 1, and I'm not going to keep talking about the stages in DuckTales 1, but Transylvania, the Amazon is probably the most fun to play through, in my opinion, but and I don't know that there's necessarily, I mean, I guess maybe Niagara would be the
Niagara's
Amazon
pretty
equivalent.
close to it,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I did like Egypt a lot too, probably my second favorite of the bunch, and I think that
Mew was pretty cool. I like Mew because of the Easter Island
the heads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like Easter Island duck looking enemies, which are pretty cool. But yeah.
I'm going to say that controversially that I like most of these levels more than the levels in DuckTales.
Interesting.
Wow, hot take there.
Yeah. Watch out. I don't know. I think as far as being designed around secrets, they're really interesting. Like I don't know if you guys went to the secret room in Mu where you can drain the water and like reveal more of the island.
No.
Yeah, so like so when you first meet one of the nephews in the level, you can he's standing above these different colored blocks. Like they're all green, I think, except for two, which are red.
I thought might be a puzzle there, but I never went.
Yeah, so it's not actually in that room, but if you go to a secret room behind Launchpad in the area, then there's an identical looking puzzle on the bottom floor, and you end up breaking the two blocks that you saw in that earlier with your pogo, and then pulling these blocks into them. And when you do that, it drains the lower level of water, so you can explore like the bottom of the temple or whatever it is, and find the secret treasure map there. And it's kind of cool. Like it ties into earlier. You get a warning earlier in the game. It's like do you remember the name? Who's the caveman? Does anyone remember his name?
Oh man, that was like a late series character, and he's kind of awful.
Well, like he basically like bum rushes you and saves you in this one area and like another
Really?
secret.
So he's in the game?
Yeah, he's in the game like very briefly, and like I'm pretty sure it's him. He's the only caveman that I know of in the series.
Bubba Duck.
Yeah.
Bubba.
Yeah. Well, so when he saves you, you kind of think nothing of it because it seems kind of poorly translated, but he tells you that one of the treasure maps is a trap and you'll get stuck. So like it turns out that it's in Mu where after you explore the bottom area, you have to break tons of blocks to get to this treasure map piece. And when you get out, if you don't take the top route to break your way out the top way, then you'll get stuck down there and have to die. Yeah. So it's like, it's a little, clue to later that I thought was kind of cool. And
that's really cool.
Yeah. There's a bunch of, and then like I'm not going to harp on everything too long about every little detail, but like in the Scottish castle, when you find the bonus area there, and if you have all the maps when you find it, then it takes you to a bonus basement stage. And that's like, there's a different take on the boss of that area who has a different move.
Wow.
And like, so you have to beat him. Yeah. And then fight
that's what I was
the normal
going to say. I think the levels in general were less inspired than DuckTales 1. However, they had this perhaps more inspired secret area that
it's almost like they focus on that more, focus on the secrets more than the actual levels. I
think on like a first or second blind playthrough, you're not going to find there's a lot of secrets that I was not going to find whatsoever.
No, right.
I think this game had a lot of potential replayability. It's a shame that I don't think anybody did, but I could see if this came out, around the time of DuckTales 1, I could see rumors at school, people saying, "Oh, there's a secret area in this and that." I think that would have been really cool to uncover that jointly with your friends or just play it for hours and hours and hours. The kind of time that I no longer have.
Right.
But yeah, if you look at the if you go to the Game Facts or whatever, I did a second run with looking at the spoilers, and there's a substantial amount of secret areas.
Yeah, so there's like a bit of a half of a game extra.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
I do think one thing I think is cool about it is that it's not to the level where you would need to call the Doki Doki power line and waste your 1-900 hot minutes on that to figure it out. You can find it just by searching and being kind of thorough in the game. So it's not really an unfair secret kind of thing.
I will say that playing DuckTales 1, and I think of that Transylvania stage in particular, has some trickery involved, if you'll recall. Like that's a stage that has the mirrors set up, and so you enter them, and you can really get yourself turned around if you're not familiar with the game. And it's so like that sort of tradition of puzzles in these games. It's something that's easy to forget because it is an easy game and you can kind of blaze through it, and like you don't really have to fuss with that too much, with the exception of I guess maybe the Transylvania stage. But I like that aspect of it, and I like that it does really give a game like this, especially from the NES era, some legs to keep running with. And I could see myself playing it again at some point.
One part that I don't think I would have actually figured out on my own without seeing some spoils on that. Did you guys see? I guess Joseph, did you see you could do the golf swing in the air?
Yes. But it's very finicky and difficult.
Yeah.
And
it's weird.
So this is one of my big complaints about the game, and I don't have that many, but you have to basically because the same button does the swing as it does the pogo bounce. So you actually have to kind of push forward to get, and if you move forward against a wall, Scrooge will get in his golf swing animation. And then if you jump after that and then press B, then he's more likely to do the swing in the air. Yeah, it's kind of very finicky.
So there's an area in Mu, I believe it was Mu, or was it Niagara? I can't remember. Where you you have to do that golf swing and break some invisible blocks that are on the top of the screen.
Yeah, that's in
over the
Niagara.
top. That's in Niagara. Okay. Yeah. Look that up because that's really weird. And I was like, I just thought I was like, there's no way I would have figured this out in a million years.
Well, I think the only reason you would figure it out is because it's a lot like the secrets in DuckTales 1 where you can bounce to above the stage, but it's like you can't. It's even
more well hidden. Like I was expecting to be able to do that, and when I wasn't able to, I was like, okay, well, I guess that not able to do that here. But then, I think it's one of those things. Like, yeah, man, if this was around when I was a kid, like this would have been a legend. It's like, no, I was able to get over there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad. Well, before we move on from level design, I'm kind of interested in thoughts on boss fights from you guys. So with DuckTales 1, the boss fights are just an absolute pushover. I mean, as a little kid, as an adult, it's just there's hardly anything to it. It's just kind of there as a set piece in the game to kind of give you a cap on the stage. Do you guys have any thoughts on the differences in bosses? Because I mean, I feel personally in DuckTales 2, some of the bosses are a little more difficult, and that might just be because I had never played them before. I mean, and not a lot. Obviously, they didn't give me any real trouble, but they've got a few more tricks up their sleeves.
Yeah, I mean, I thought all the bosses were insanely boring, except the golem one, which was kind of okay. But the rest of them was just avoid attack, jump on them, avoid attack, jump on them. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Which is a DuckTales boss.
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty much the same exact design, except for the one, I think the one you're mentioning, Frank, was the one that's like in... Is it in Moo?
I think it's in Moo, yeah.
Robo Duck.
Yeah, and it's also kind of the most annoying boss just because it goes back and forth. And then when it's on either side, it'll either shoot its arm or stomp to make blocks fall down, and you can only hit it with the blocks that fall down.
Right.
Yeah, and you have to expose its core when you hit it, and then bounce on that.
That's still a thing, though. I mean, like that's still even though it's a simple strategy, it is still a strategy.
Yeah.
And I still feel like for a game that is based on a cartoon for young kids. Like that's still kind of neat. It gives you something to do. It gives you a part of the environment to interact with.
Oh yeah, it's way more involved than any of the other bosses.
Yeah, because this is the only boss I went like, okay, this is a strategy as opposed to just wait it out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I liked the boss interaction with the environment. I thought was more so in this game than in the first one. And another good example of that is in Egypt, where you have a pharaoh, I guess, or some sort of character.
Mummy Duck.
A mummy, yeah. Right.
I don't know if that's the official boss name. I just put that down.
Okay.
Who is he's sinking into the sand, like sort of quicksand, and then like popping up in another spot and like shooting at you and disappearing again. And I don't know. I just think of.
But you could see him. You could see him in the sand. It wasn't even like.
No, you totally could. You totally could. And I'm not saying it's perfect, and I'm not saying it's even great. I'm just saying that in DuckTales 1, I don't know how long it's been since you played the first one, but those bosses are just. I mean, you just beat them almost instantly. They might as well just
just
die.
Might
as well just walk into the boss arena and they should just die because,
the difficulty is not.
I want to. Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind is like the giant rat, on the moon stage.
Yeah.
It's like, man, you got a couple of platforms and just wait for him to get out of the way, and then you hit him, and then same thing with is it Himalaya that
the Yeti?
Nope. Yeti's a little tougher because of the stuff falling from the ceiling. I'm thinking of this the stage with the mole man, like the.
Oh yeah.
The rumbler, the
mines, right?
The guys, the mines, yeah, African mines, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like that was another one that was just like he's just gonna roll around the screen, and you can stand in one spot and just wait for him to land, and then you pop him. But So this game had a bit more to do, or at least some things to dodge. And
the pirate captain had all the rings that you could hook.
I guess, yeah.
But that was annoying though because there
was annoying. Yeah,
there was no strategy for it, and like the boss strategy for this fight. So for people that haven't played this, if you can imagine like a traditional NES Capcom boss arena, like a Mega Man game, big square room, but there's rings everywhere, like a ton of rings, and if you jump up, you're pretty much guaranteed to click into one of them, and that's really the only time in this boss fight that you're subject to any damage coming from that boss. And so it just, to me, it felt like like an annoying obstacle where I could have just like, if it was real world, I wouldn't click on this thing. I would just like walk over and beat that guy. But yeah, I don't know.
I love Brandon sitting there being like, man, if this were the real world, I would
if
kick your ass.
If this were the real world and I was a rich old uncle and I'd pogoed around on a cane.
With real humanoid ducks like Howard the Duck instead of cartoon ones.
Right?
These fake ducks.
If we're going to talk about bosses, though, let's talk about the best boss in the game, which is the last boss, which is the T-1000.
D1, yeah.
Oh man, that Terminator 2 reference.
The best part, they don't even like hide it. It's just D1000 is Flintheart Glomgold's robot form.
Because it's even like Mega Man-esque. Like when I first saw that boss, I was like, "Oh my god, this is a Mega Man boss!" Like the way it like it moves, it kind of looks like it kind of melts like the Yellow Devil kind of and stuff like that. Like it just. I had a good chuckle, and then it's an actual challenging boss because he will kick you.
There's a timing. Well,
okay, sorry. Challenging to the rest of the bosses.
Right.
Some. Yeah, I would agree with some. Yeah, because I mean, he's just got those 2 attacks, right? And then you just kind of like stay away. And
just stay away.
I will say that his timing is a little cheap at times. Like it seems like he's capable of like speeding up those kicks, and
he'll usually
like a punch, right?
he'll usually get you when he's like grappling for the ceiling.
But
I mean,
which is really the only way you can hit him is from
the top,
on top of his head.
Well, he changes up the timing it takes, like because sometimes he'll wait a second before he goes back up to the ceiling, and other times he'll transition right after coming back down.
Yeah. And it feels like there's not really any rhyme or reason to it. He's just kind of so
that might be RNG.
Yeah,
just like the real T-1000.
It's a cool fight. I feel like you're going to go through the trouble. I mean, they obviously, whoever decided that they wanted to make this D1000 character said, okay, I want to make a stretchy character, right? A character who has an elongated kick and punch. So I'm going to do that, and then like didn't really do anything with it besides this punch and kick. And it was like, it would have been cool to have them. I mean, if you're going to go through the trouble of naming it D1000, which may have been like a localization thing or whatever.
How can it not be, though? You know what I mean?
How can it not be the localization?
No, how can it not be an obvious ripoff as the T-1000?
For sure. But my reason for mentioning it is if you're going to make it a T-1000, a great part of the character in Terminator 2
have it kill your parents.
Todd and Janelle should die. No, but the thing is that T-1000 can like change its appearance.
Sure.
And can do a bunch of stuff. And like, since that's the last boss in the game, like they really could have thrown a bunch of stuff at it.
It would have been cool if it would have been like a Mega Man-esque thing where it changes to the other bosses.
Totally had that same thought.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been a lot of fun. I mean, some of those bosses are very dependent on the shape of the arena and being able to justify, say, giant rocks falling from the ceiling or your hooks and rings, but I don't know. I have to feel like I can't help but feel like something could have been done with that. But
it could have become the Fire Quacker.
It could have been.
Is that its legit name?
I think so.
Oh my god!
If it's not, I was going to give you a big old.
No. I think it actually is, but I can't confirm that.
That Fire Quacker is the coolest design one, though. It looks kind of cool. Like it's kind of looks like a genie, kind of. It's like a wispy. Fiery. I mean, I'm explaining this for the viewers, but it kind of looks like a fiery, whispery thing, but it has like a duck face, like everything else in DuckTales.
Nothing says genie like Niagara Falls.
Then it must be.
Like, really, could that not have been like an Egypt boss?
Well,
it
is on the Canadian side, and it's a lot more mystical here. So
okay. Well, that explains a lot then. Thanks
Beyond the wall.
Beyond the wall.
Well, before we let's maybe transition from level design talk into music. So depending on your dedication to the world of video game nerddom, you have a certain familiarity with the DuckTales 1 soundtrack.
Sure.
I think arguably the Moon Stage is one of the most recognizable pieces of video game music. Because of its melody, but also depending on how involved you are in the internet, lots of VGM bands, I have to assume you listen to this, so you've heard of things like the Mini Bosses and whatnot. Lots of bands have done covers of DuckTales 1 music.
But even in popular culture, like in meme culture, as cringy as that might sound, they use this song in meme videos and stuff like that. Like it's a very popular song, even
Really?
outside of
that
video
that
game
dog
territories.
floating away.
I refer to Frank for all of my meme culture inquiries. So, so I mentioned that to kind of lay a foundation for the timelessness of the DuckTales 1 soundtrack. Now, since we all sort of said in unanimous statement that we had no familiarity with DuckTales 2 as kids because of various circumstances, I guess I'm going off on a tangent here. My question to you is, what are your thoughts on the soundtrack for DuckTales 2? And do you think that it's as strong a soundtrack as DuckTales 1? And if the answer to that is no, then I have a part 2 to my question.
Absolutely no. I did not like the soundtrack at all. There's 2 songs that I liked.
At all? Really?
Yeah, there's 2 songs that I liked, which was Egypt and there's kind of like a fusion-y song right before the T1000 or the D1000.
Man, clean your ears, dog.
Nah, man, there was no leads. It was very boring. Like all of these songs were so uninspired to me, like especially compared to the first soundtrack. I don't know. They were not doing it for me.
I think I don't want to bust your chops, but to say that there's no leads, I mean, video game music is all leads.
Yeah, and exactly. But like, it's all like just rhythm sections. That's how I felt. Like,
okay.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it holds up as well. Oh well, let's the other two you guys like chime in. Brian, what are your thoughts on this soundtrack to part 2 as it stacks up to part 1?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was really that special. I mean, I can't say I didn't enjoy it, but it was no DuckTales 1, and I'm not I can't say that I really picked it apart enough to say why.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I'd be curious to see who composed this. I'm actually looking it up right now.
It's Minae Fuji and Akihiro Akamatsu. Is that who it is? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right off the top of my head, I don't know what their body of work is.
Because I feel like they just basically took the sound samples and like the programming of the first game and just gave it to people that didn't really compose anything else. I don't know. That's how I feel.
Now I'm willing to pause long enough for you to look that up, because I would like to know for sure. But Joseph, you seem like you out of the three of you guys that aren't me. You seem to be the one that's maybe a little more favorably leaning towards it being a decent enough soundtrack. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a totally more than serviceable soundtrack, and I think it's just so buried under the shadow of DuckTales 1 that it's impossible to objectively look at it. Like it just you really can't, because literally this whole episode I've been sitting here and I've had DuckTales 1 songs in my head.
Yeah, same here. Yep,
and
totally.
It's because I've played that 3,000 times, and I've played DuckTales 2 twice. So right. I don't know. I think that while I'm playing the game, like the pirate ship level, that's a great song to me. I think so has
too.
A really cool kind of like groove to it. I guess I recall the first time I played DuckTales 2, I was playing it around the house, and obviously and Lauren's in the other room, and she kind of like I caught her kind of humming along to this tune that was playing, and I was like, yeah, this is a catchy song. Good thing I've had it. I've had it paused and on loop for like the last 20 minutes.
It's always fun when the wife, makes a comment about the video game music, in a favorable manner.
Well, yeah, because normally I think the consensus around here is that it's just grating.
Can you please turn that off?
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interject, but I found some information. So, composer for DuckTales 1, which is Hiroshige Tonomura, did not do this game. Like you said earlier, it was Minae Fuji and Akihiro Akamatsu. So for Minae, she did Mega Man 4. She did Tailspin. She did Breath of Fire.
Wow.
And some stuff on Mega Man 10. She has a bigger soundtrack list than Tonomura, which was the first DuckTales guy. But
that sort of refutes that they just threw it to someone that never did.
Well, it might have been her first game. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, that's quite possible.
And then the other guy did a bunch of stuff that we don't know, like a lot of Super Nintendo games that were
like Japanese only games.
Japanese only game, like Mahjong games and stuff like that.
Okay.
But he did.
Those have to have some sweet jams though, because
I
you're
was
just
gonna
sitting
say,
there
some
listening to
Mahjong
it.
games are
Mahjong
really
games are
good.
great though. Yeah. But he did do Chippendales too.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, it's you can't. You have to assume that. I one day I would like to, when I finally get free time again, to look through Capcom's 8-bit library from front to back and like kind of see the carryover for all the composers. Yeah.
Well, check out Retro Game Audio's long video that has every single game from beginning to end.
Yeah. So I guess I've got Joseph's point of view on the soundtrack. I guess I'm just kind of curious, Frank and Brian, do you feel that the lack of nostalgia for this game as a new game, or I guess maybe let me turn that around the other way. Do you feel like your appreciation for DuckTales 1 soundtrack is steeped at all in nostalgia?
No, because I only played it as an adult.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I played the butt out of Darkwing Duck. That was my NES game. Duck
that's
Duck
another
game.
good soundtrack. Too.
But I remember seeing it at like video stores but never renting it. I would rent Tailspin instead for some apparent reason. It was a worse game.
Oh man, that game's horrible.
But I think I like Tailspins better as opposed to DuckTales as a kid. Maybe I don't know. But
the game or the cartoon?
The cartoon.
Oh, Frank.
I don't know. That's the Canadian. I don't know. They might be just crazy.
Ladies and gentlemen, we suddenly have an opening on Doki Doki Game Club. If you would like to submit an audio reel, please.
No, I used to love DuckTales. Don't get me wrong, but Tailspin, I don't know, Baloo, man.
Yeah. I'll admit I watched some Tailspin too, but
I like the idea of Tailspin.
The concept of Tailspin.
Yeah.
Don Carnage.
Yeah.
Right? Anyone remember Don Carnage?
But anyways, that being said, I don't have any nostalgia to the soundtrack as opposed to maybe some of you guys. But I obviously know all the songs. Like I'm an NES composer, so I know everything about NES music. So it's there, but I don't have this nostalgic feeling as I would with like a Mega Man instead. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So to me, I still don't think it stacks up to the first one.
Brian, how about you?
I could say that's definitely maybe, but I don't know, man. Just listen to the DuckTales 1, man.
Yeah.
It's great.
It is a fresh soundtrack.
What can I say?
Yeah. I mean, from top to bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's weird that like the people that did DuckTales 2, most notably the girl, went on to do a lot more soundtracks, and the guy that did DuckTales 1 didn't really do much after that.
Yeah,
other than
they're like, you're too good.
Yeah, he did, or maybe he did movies or something afterwards.
Yeah.
He's like,
he put all that effort into part 1.
He probably
and
just
like,
quit.
I'm not do any better than that.
Yeah, he's probably like, man, that was about as good as it's gonna get, I guess.
my magnum opus is done. That's it. I'm over.
Yeah.
Well, as sort of a closing talking point, we talked about the movie earlier. We talked about the comic book. I'm interested to know if you guys have any experience with the cartoon reboot. Has anyone seen the new animated show?
Yes. I've wanted to. People are saying it's really good, but I've never given it the time.
Yeah. How about you, Brian?
Now, can't say that I have, and
No.
I've also wanted to do the DuckTales game reboot as well, but that's on the list, but I haven't.
Oh, that's
made it.
good too.
Yeah,
I
speaking
haven't
of the
played that
reboot,
either,
that is a really good game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. You should play it.
Boy.
Oh yeah, and
it's too bad.
Jake Vert did the soundtrack for it.
Right?
That's right. Yeah, and I got my feelings on Vert's music, but yeah. I definitely want to play it, and it's one of those games that like I just kept going. It's always like really cheap. It's always on sale. And it's on every
You're like,
system.
that's too cheap.
Yeah, I can't play this game. You're not asking for enough money.
I mean, here at Doki Doki Game Club, we only play games that cost $1,000 or more.
It's true.
Right.
We are big ballers.
Right.
With
Actually,
deep pockets.
Now that we're talking about just because we mentioned Vert, Vert also did the soundtrack for Shovel Knight, which pretty much I think yanked a
heavily
core
mechanic.
mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you didn't play DuckTales and you didn't know what we were talking about, the pogo jump, it's the exact same thing as Shovel Knight.
You're right. I totally should have mentioned Shovel Knight earlier because now that I'm thinking about that, I'm like, yeah, of course, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and Shovel Knight's great fun. While we're still somewhat near the topic of music, I was just suddenly had the thought of nostalgia being able to color your appreciation for a soundtrack. And while I haven't played the reboot of DuckTales, I have listened to the soundtrack. And I mean, this is totally a personal preference. It's no slight to Jake, Vert. I think he's a great guy, based on my limited interaction with him. But he tends to be very he likes all of the notes and wants to put all the notes in all the songs. And sometimes it gets a little too busy for my taste, which is kind of the problem with Shovel Knight, in my opinion. But as far as his reimagining of DuckTales, he's sort of forced to dial things back a little bit, in my opinion. And so it's kind of cool to hear those fresh takes, with a modern electronic.
And they play really well
assets.
in the stages too. Like just. It's a really good soundtrack to
that game.
I mean, as it should.
the remake. I remember first seeing like screenshots and stuff of it, and being like absolutely blown away how it looked like a cartoon. Like there's like no aliasing on the sprites or anything. Like everything mashes up perfectly. Like it looks really good.
I need to play that.
It's that way forward action.
Yeah, way forward is. Sometimes they get like really kind of weird.
They get every other licensed game right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Some games are like, and then other games you're like, they did it. Like it's so good.
They need to bring. All we're saying now is that they need to bring DuckTales 2 remastered to fruition.
Oh man, there's some things they can fix on that. And
Absolutely, they could.
Okay, so now is the time of the show where we give our rundown, and I think I have a pretty good idea what everybody's final thoughts are going to be, but I'd like to hear it, and I know that the listeners at home or wherever they may be would like to hear it as well. So let's start with Brian. We'll do Brian, Joseph, then Frank.
Okay, so I thought that the game was... It seemed at its face like somewhat uninspired. Like the levels kind of seemed, there wasn't too many moving parts. It seemed to me like I don't know, like some of the placements, some of the enemies, kind of, just didn't really seem inspired or like there's too much going on. But actually, so on the good side is actually just the flip side of that is that, in fact, there are many secrets to find. So I think that was actually pretty good. Overall, I think I'm going to rate it, I would say a favorable 3.5 duck blurs out of 5.
Very good. Joseph, what are your thoughts on this game?
I really, really like this game. I had low expectations the first time I played DuckTales 2 because I was like, why would this be good? If it's such a, why would this be a buried treasure? But I'm glad I did. The first time, I don't know if I appreciated it quite as much as I do now, but just, when I played it for the podcast, I played through once and immediately played through again to get all the secrets, and I had a really good time. I think the presentation is great. The music's pretty good. I think it'd be better outside of the context of it being a follow-up to an immensely, crazily popular game.
Sure.
And, it's just one of those Disney games that hits the right notes for me. I'm going to give it... Oh, wait. I should give it a bad... I do have a bad thing, maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't like the fact that you... there's some ways you can get locked out of getting all the secrets, like, right at the very end. like if... I didn't know the first time I played through, for example, that you had to buy the energy things just to make way... at least one energy upgrade to make way for the treasure map that you have to buy. And you have to have that to get 100%. You have to have that last 7th treasure map piece. So that was kind of annoying. But otherwise, I don't know. I'm going to give this 5 out of 5. Beautifully blessed bagpipes.
Frank, what do you got?
Well, I don't know. I don't share the same zest as you guys do for this game. I felt that it was just reusing assets and just trying to make a quick buck before the system died and fulfilling a contract that I'm assuming they had to do. Music to me was uninspired and not as good as the first one. Yeah, except a couple of tracks were okay. Like I said, Egypt, and there was kind of the track before the final boss, which was good. And all around, I didn't finish all the secret areas, so maybe I would have better understanding of the level design if I did, because otherwise I felt like the level design were kind of just meh. But yeah, I mean that's my opinion. I give it probably. Oh, I guess what I like about it would be the differences. I guess like that step up evolution, even though it wasn't utilized very well, I think the potential was there. All these different kind of little power ups that they gave you. So that's kind of cool. But Capcom is known to do that in the NES. Like every Mega Man iteration had like a different kind of thing. But anyways, but I would give it probably 2.5 quacks out of 5.
All right, very good. Yeah, I like this game. Yeah, I mean it's difficult because you kind of have to be of two minds. You know, as I'm playing the game, I am obviously I can't help but detach myself, you know, in order to give it an honest shake from DuckTales 1. But while you're playing it, it's like you slip into it like a old familiar shoe. And you know, I had this such a strong experience with DuckTales as a kid. I love the cartoon, as we've already mentioned, and so the familiarity was there. And to be able to play something that I managed to miss out on that is so similar, you know, the magic wasn't quite as strong. It wasn't like I feel the way about this game as I feel about DuckTales 1. But overall, I think it's a fun enough game, and it doesn't change the fact that the mechanics are quality, you know, just because it's a sort of a different thing. And I think that at the end of the day, it plays similar enough to DuckTales 1 that if you like that style of gameplay, then I can't recommend it enough. So, you know, the things that I suppose didn't work about it, yeah, some of the stage design, you know, wasn't quite as interesting as the first one. You know, you kind of hit some of the more popular landmarks in the DuckTales series, you know, in part 1, and then you're left going, okay, well, what else do we do? And something like a Niagara Falls just seems cheesy, and like, you know, like you said, sort of uninspired. So, you know, so yeah, that's sort of a mess of a thought there. Leads me to, I guess I'll go ahead and give it a rating. I think it's probably, I'm a little on the fence between 3.5 and 4. I'm going to stick with 3.5 because it's not a perfect game, and or not even it's not a 4-point game. But so I'll give it 3.5. Me number one dimes out of 5. All right, so if you've listened to this, if you love DuckTales as a kid, if maybe you've got some young kids who are watching the new cartoon, which I wish we could have talked maybe a little bit more about, but I definitely recommend looking into the show because it is enjoyable.
Yeah, it's good.
And so if you want to kind of expose your kids or you know, rediscover a lost treasure of the NES catalog, and you want to get your hands on this, you've got some options. So let's say you want to buy a physical copy of this, and you got those aforementioned deep pockets. Pricecharting.com, a loose copy of this, you know, and people see you see loose NES cartridges all the time, right? No matter where you go or where you live. But to get a loose cartridge, runs you about $138. To get a complete inbox, you're looking at $335. And if by somehow you magically find a brand new copy of this still in the shrink, it's $974. That's
and
bonkers.
while you're out throwing money in your net, don't forget about our Patreon, right?
Exactly. Yeah, if you buy this and you're not subscribing to the Patreon, yeah, we got some words for you.
I mean, this seems kind of appropriate for a game starring Scrooge McDuck, though. You know,
I guess.
True. Yeah.
Although I will say, we should probably add that you could just get the Disney Afternoon Collection for like
I was going to say that
for
absolutely
$10 or less, actually.
Yeah, I mean, depending on you know, whether it's on sale. I mean, it's something that I remember when it first came out, like constantly over the last couple of years, dropping in price. So pick your favorite system. You know, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's even on Steam.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, so I mean, like if you're a PC gamer, there might even be a Mac version of it, and or you know, your Xboxes or your PlayStations. you can have it on the cheap. And those we didn't really talk about that version, the Disney Afternoon version, but you kind of get an added mechanic for the casual gamer, your ability to rewind in case you botch a jump and end up in a pit.
Yep.
And there's save states, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So some nice value for $10 with that. So pick a copy up, whether you get it physically or digitally. But for now, it's time for Doki Doki Powerline. That's right, it's Doki Doki Powerline, where we plug you into the source for the hottest gamer tips and tricks. The winner of this episode's Powerline Pro Tip comes from Drake Mallard, who writes all the way from, well, it's not Duckburg. Where's Drake Mallard from?
Quicktropolis?
From somewhere. It's nearby. Yeah.
New Duckburg.
New Duckburg. Yeah, okay. And so Drake has written in, and Joseph, you're going to read that for us, are you not?
Yeah. So there's a couple endings to this game. Like if you don't get the lost treasure of McDuck by finding all the treasure maps, then you kind of have the disappointing, oh, we never found out what it was. If you do, then Scrooge reveals that he's gotten away with one more treasure. And there's actually a third ending to the game. If you beat the game with no money at all, you get to see an alternate ending where the McDuck family name is shamed.
That's canon.
I may have to go back and give that a shot. Yeah. That is canon. So thank you, Drake Mallard, for writing in with that beautiful Powerline Pro Tip.
And let's get dangerous.
Appreciate it. And let's get dangerous. Wait. Drake Mallard's just a mild-mannered, mild-mannered duck. All right.
No association.
No.
Yeah. So episode 11's in the bag, and episode 12 is coming up, and choice selection falls to Frank. So Frank, what have you chosen for episode 12?
Episode 12 shall be Battletoads Arcade Edition.
And that concludes episode 11 of Doki Doki Game Club. Before we come up for air and lock down the money bin, I want to thank my Cane, Catapult, and cronies for joining me today. Who are you guys, and where can people find you?
I am Joseph Luster, and you can find me on Twitter at Moldylocks. My website is subhumanzoids.com, and you can listen to Subhumancast with my co-host Kane Schledelzink. For the Zoids, by the Zoids, baby. I'm
Brian Grogan. You can find me on Twitter at Ken O Shinobi.
I'm Frank Martin. You can find me on Twitter at Hios_IO.
And if Twitter is your thing and you'd like to follow me personally, I am Genocide over there. That's DJINNOCIDE. And you can follow the show on Twitter at Doki Doki GC. In addition to that, we're practically on every other social network online as well. So search for Doki Doki Game Club all across the World Wide Web, or head over to DokiDokiGameClub.com for further details. Thank you once again for everyone who continues to tweet about us using hashtag DokiDokiGC or shares a link to the show on Facebook. You're the treasure map to our lost fortune. And last but not least, we have a Patreon, so if you have a couple of bucks you can spare and would like to show us your support in that manner, you can head on over to patreon.com/Doki Doki Game Club, where we have some pretty neat rewards available to anyone interested in supporting us in that fashion. So, on behalf of Brian, Frank, Joseph, and myself, thank you for listening, and until next time, adios, Battletoads.